Hello and welcome to this week's 52 Weeks. This week we're starting into Chapter 8, which focuses in on economic development. The comp plan, as noted before in previous 52 Weeks segments, that this was a capital investment plan which recognizes that there are interrelationships between the people, place, and economics around the city. So how do we address what is in goal number 1, driving the transformative economic growth in Harrisburg for the next 20 years? Well, the first is looking at the migration in and out as well as property ownership. And here's a quote from the Harrisburg comp plan. Harrisburg is different. Its population turns over frequently, exchanging approximately 2,000 residents per year. The population is numerically refreshed every 25 years. This is a fundamental strategic advantage for the city. Housing changes hands frequently. It requires a completely different profile for housing types, retail markets, and institutional facilities. Continuing on, Harrisburg's challenge is not to be attractive, but to how to sustain the attraction, knowing that every 5 years, 20% of the people leave and 20% of the people arrive. Thus, the growing strategy for the city is to retain a greater percentage of the 20% out migration. So we can look at how do we continue to attract folks so that they don't move out. This is something from within we need to look at. What are those factors? This would be a great survey and research project within the K-12 schools to see what that is. Who's staying, who isn't, and who actually returns is another question as well. There's also this population of renters to talk about. Of the 11,086 people who created households in Harrisburg since 2010, 87% of those are renters. So from 2000 to 2009, there's 45% of homeowners that moved, and then since 2000, 33% of the renting population or 20% of the total population has moved. So looking at that sustainability, an idea of creating a desirable city, what is that and how's that defined by all of us? The city's responsibility in the near term is to begin transformation of large areas of crumbling housing stock into desirable neighborhoods of choice. Combining affordability and quality in Harrisburg's housing market is challenging due to low property valuation. One of the things that came out from all the community meetings in 2015, those who live here already desire the city. So we've already made a decision to live here, and that's why we like it here. There's a quote out of the comp plan: the people of Harrisburg understand they already reside in a great place. It just needs to be fixed. And I included a map from the comp plan of all the vacant units that are around the city, and you can see the heat map of where this is located. Continuing on the idea of creating a desirable city, a quote: the overwhelming response from the 8 initial public engagement session is the clear demand for the city to address deferred maintenance of street buildings, particularly housing, parks, and trees. Deferred maintenance is perhaps the most politically unattractive subject imaginable, but it is the priority subject of which the 2016 comprehensive plan must focus. Again, this is not spotlight stuff. This is the work that just needs to be done within our city. And actually, it's good work to be doing because it's necessary to maintain the value that we've had already given to us. Our buildings are going to be here longer than we are as we pass on. This is something that we need to look at, is the structure. How do we create good places, and what do we wish to inhabit as good places? This is an important quote. Repositioning the city's existing buildings and infrastructure as sustainable assets is the unglamorous but essential task of the next 20 years. So this is what's not fun in the comp plan. I believe this is one issue that no one wants to deal with in the comp plan, that within the next 20 years, this is what's going to be happening. Increasing housing choice is another sidebar that's important. Quote, a stable population suggests the possibility of zero new construction scenario, particularly if existing vacant building stock is returned to use. However, the planning team received a stream of comments from the public engagement stating interest in contemporary housing to be provided in multiple areas of the city. So all around the city, we need housing choice. So this all came out in 2016, and then 2017, it was made public in the draft in November. Now the whole focus is, well, now we have a housing issue. Well, yes, this was mentioned back in the comp plan, and this actually is the most important document we need to be looking at because at least it framed the data and truth of what people wanted within our city, and we need to address these things. Providing a mix of housing opportunities is critical in the city's goal of becoming a location of choice for housing in central PA. That's where we look at this 1.7 million, that this is just a place where people come in, they have an easy way to enter into the city and be part of the city, and then make their way around and learn where they want to land eventually all through the central PA region. The quote, the continuous demographics and real estate trends indicate new arrivals and established residents are looking for alternatives to traditional home ownership, particularly housing types such as apartments, condominiums, cooperative housing, and co-housing models, which allows for property ownership without involved responsibility for property maintenance. That's what we need to be looking at. That is what changed. Continued quote, in increasing housing choice, often individuals are looking for smaller, better quality housing units than market development has targeted for 40 years. ADUs. The micro apartment, the tiny houses, and missing middle housing types are quickly becoming necessary components of a progressive city's housing offerings. Progressive housing alternatives such as cooperative housing can further distinguish Harrisburg from the surrounding communities. And so we continue on the goals that are here within this segment. Goal 8.2, to be the location of choice for people moving in central PA. The objective is increase resident population to 60,000 by 2036. Based on projected growth, if we retain people moving into the city, we could achieve this. And the action item is retain 500 people of the 2,000 persons who leave every year. So if we can look at figuring out that number, that would be good to address the 60,000 by 2036. Continuing in Goal 8.2, being the place of choice, Harrisburg must focus on 7 points of neighborhood revitalization. The first is renovation and long-term maintenance of existing building assets. The second, provide housing options, including high-quality affordable housing in a variety of types and sizes. 3, restoration of mixed-use community commercial cores to provide goods and services to all residents in comfortable walking distance from their housing. Continuing on with these 7 points. Number 4, creating employment opportunities in each of the community cores. 5, create unique, regionally attractive features in each community core. Number 6, improving transit options for convenient movement between community cores throughout the city and region. Number 7, improve educational options at all levels. As we conclude this segment, we can look at the additional sidebars. What is co-housing? There's a little section on that, and a quote from that is, co-housing is an intentional community of private homes clustered around shared space. Whole city blocks are ideal locations for co-housing. Each attached single-family home has traditional amenities, including a private kitchen. Shared spaces typically feature a common house, which may include a large kitchen and dining area, laundry, and recreational spaces. And one final additional sidebar. This is a table that represents the duration of occupancy of homeowners and renters. Harrisburg is a transient city for both owners and renters. Less than 1/3 of the homeowners purchased their property prior to 1990. Since 2010, renters have outpaced homeowners by 8-1. So these are things that need to be considered in understanding the transformative effects of economics. Well, that's the end for this week's 52 Weeks, focusing on Chapter 8, Economic Development, and the focus was in the introduction segment. We hope that this has been informative. Please reach out looking at the comp plan in economic development and dig into that to see some of the graphs and data that the comp plan arrived at from understanding the housing issues and economic development around the region. Thanks again for listening and have a great day.